Welcome to Nintendo K Channel. I am Danny. Bayonetta 3 is one of the most anticipated games to come on Nintendo Switch in 2022. It has been years since it was first announced, and I'm glad to see it finally arrive on the Switch. The game is an action-packed adventure that has its own identity, which I can say only Bayonetta can pull off with such daring style and flair. Outside of its aesthetic, getting to the core of the game with its performance, how does it perform on Nintendo Switch? Keep in mind that the game's performance target is 60 FPS or frames per second. This game uses full motion video and in-game engine cutscene sequences that transition into gameplay interchangeably to convey actions and events. Starting with the intro chapter, Records of Time, Phenomenal Affirmation, at the very beginning of the game, pre-rendered full motion video cutscenes are smooth and fluid with a stable 30 FPS. Transitioning into gameplay, however, was where the frame rate seems to show a different light. Most of the frame rate line was persistent in the 50s range and can dip into the mid-40s FPS range. Battling using Gamora showed similar behavior. There were dips persistent throughout the battle, hitting as low as 42 FPS with frame time spikes all the way through. Now onto the prologue, a chaotic encounter. The in-game engine cutscene here with Bayonetta and Enzo targeted 30 FPS exhibited a behavior that hovers persistently close to the 30 FPS mark with minor fluctuations. Since gameplay is not involved in these cutscenes, it shouldn't detract too much from the experience. Heading into the first battle here with a group of Stratus enemies show frame rate mostly in the 50 FPS territory and may drop into the upper 30s depending on how much action is happening on screen. There were periods when it did hit 60 FPS stable, but those moments are brief and unfortunately few and far between. When battling bigger enemies with numerous elements happening in the background gave similar performance as mentioned earlier. I was wondering if activating Witch Time with its ability to slow down enemy action while maintaining full speed of Bayonetta would have any effect. Results show that going in and out of Witch Time and real time have no significant difference. Taking the stress test to another level with an even bigger enemy facing Cumulonimbus, performance was overall better this time around with frames hitting mostly in the 50s. There were sequences with pre-rendered full motion video transitioning from gameplay were perfectly fine staying at a solid 30 FPS. Bringing out Infernal Demon Gamora with Bayonetta's Demon Slave ability showed the same higher overall performance seen earlier. Finishing off this enemy with a quick button pressing event stayed consistent at 30 FPS, no issues here. On to facing the final big enemy of the prologue, Kraken. This segment with Gamora showed overall good performance relative to what we've seen so far, hitting 60 FPS with performance staying mostly in the 50 FPS territory. Segments where the enemy charges at you when the camera is zoomed out are excellent, hitting essentially 60 FPS throughout. Getting out into the world, moving around with Viola show a mostly middle-of-the-road 50 FPS on the chart with fluctuations. Running around, gathering items and jumping on platforms are the same throughout. Transitioning to battle in the world shows similar performance seen in the prologue. Heading to a new area here in the Chaotic Rift show a high average frame rate. Bayonetta running around stay consistent, hovering mostly in the mid to upper 50 FPS range. Traversing between platforms are rock solid 60 FPS. Battling in this area also show a better overall performance. Bringing out Infernal Demon Madama Butterfly to battle hit consistent mid-50s to 60 FPS here. With less complex areas such as this, the game can certainly hold up well. Alright, on to the final part of my analysis. This train section has gameplay transitioning into video where it hit 30 FPS perfectly on the video segment. Once the action starts, fluctuations are in the range of 38 to 56 FPS. Frame times are just like in earlier battle sequences. Getting onto a very exciting part of the game, it is also interesting how Platinum Games handled it when compared to the game so far. When Bayonetta summoned Gamora on this insanely fun and cool on-rail sliding action-packed sequence, frame rate and frame time charts hit completely stable at 30 frames per second. On a rooftop battling an enemy was another flaw showing at a stable 30 FPS. With more intense sliding areas containing lots of more things happening on screen, showed an outstanding stable performance all around. This area of gameplay is an excellent showing. Overall, the performance of Bayonetta 3 on Nintendo Switch is mixed. It targets 60 frames per second but had difficulty hitting that metric. Even with what was said, overall, I do think it is a good showing for the game. The visual and art style are pleasing, gameplay is solid and not to mention fun as heck. Performance may not be completely stable, but I do believe it is solid enough that shouldn't hinder the overall enjoyment of this game. But of course, your tolerance to stability will vary with each person. There are certain compromises made, but I believe Platinum Games made the call to target the 60 FPS ceiling to keep responsiveness a high priority. Alright, that's all I have for you on this episode. If you found this analysis informative or helpful and you like the work I do here, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to Nintendo K for more performance and evaluations like this on upcoming games coming to Nintendo Switch. I am Danny, and I'll catch you on the next one.